Another episode of Wealthish Talks, the show where we dive into the world of business, wealth, and personal development. I'm your host, Rictrika Bennett, a business strategist and owner of a marketing agency. Today, we are truly inspired to have an amazing guest, Bob Thompson. Bob's life's journey is a tapestry of resilience, transformation, triumph, and we're here to uncover the remarkable insights of what he's gained along the way. So, everyone, let us welcome Bob to the show.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, Bob, when I was looking at your bio, one of the things that really impressed me was your journey and how you transitioned to two different fields that are on the opposite sector of each other. Your journey from chemistry to real estate is so fascinating. So, can you kind of tell us more about what motivated you to make such a significant career shift in your life?
Honestly, I think what it comes down to is just being miserable. I mean, if you want to know the truth of the matter, it comes down to, okay, I could stay at this job for the next 25, 30 years, but I've got, 15 bosses. I'm working 12-hour shifts. I'm just not where I want to be. What really crystallized it was when I left the plant and got into the lab itself, I did that without a college degree. I had enough smarts and whatnot to get myself into the door. And I actually was going to go for an environmental protection degree. Now, this is like 2003, 2004, when they really didn't even have full degrees. They were certificates. So I'm in freshman chemistry with my own lab coat, with my name on it, all of my own supplies that I got from work because they're paying for it. And after about 2 classes of freshman chemistry, I realized that I was miserable and I was done. This is not where I wanted to be long term. And then it just became a matter of trying to figure out what I wanted to do and how to go about doing it. And I got into real estate investing. I owned several rental properties, but discovered, quite honestly, that I enjoyed the hunt. I enjoyed the negotiation. I enjoyed all of the other stuff about real estate. And my ex-wife and I put a plan together. We had a 3-year plan. This was in 2005. And I was able to walk out of the lab in 2007 in April. And I'm quite honestly, I'm very proud of that. It's probably one of the most things I'm most proud of is the fact that what was supposed to be a 3-year plan became a 2-year plan and we were able to get out.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love it. And I think it's so significant that many people don't understand the difference between a job and actually having a vocation of something that they're really passionate about, because they'll stay in a miserable state or position long term, which is very unhealthy for them. But what I really like is the journey of the process of how you basically condensed a time frame of getting something done faster than what you expected through your career process or through the journey. So can you kind of highlight some key milestones or challenges that you faced during that journey?
Yeah, honestly, I think for me, the biggest thing was we put our head down and focused on the task at hand. I had bills to pay. I knew that I had been doing real estate part-time. I was making about 25 grand a year. And I full-time at the chemistry job, I was making about 45 grand a year. So the thought process was, okay, I essentially need to be able to at least make 45 grand a year. And how do I do that? And the biggest thing that we did was we paid down all of the debt. So we both had car payments at the time. We paid off both cars, got rid of any exterior, and interior debt that we had. So at worst case, if it didn't go well right away, we would be protected and covered. Now, at the time, we were able to switch over to my wife's insurance at the time. So that problem was solved. So it was just literally just a process of elimination of what we need to do, because quite honestly, it became a situation where I was miserable, and that's just no way to go through life. I'm coming home from a 12-hour shift, grumpy and unhappy. The one thing that I discovered is that by focusing on getting out of there, I actually became a better employee while I was there, because wasn't worried about the day-to-day politics and dealing with people. I just pretty much came in, did my job, and left. And it honestly, it made me a better employee while I was there those last couple of years.
Oh wow. And I think that is fascinating. And even in that, I know you overcame a lot of challenges, especially like from a health perspective. And I know me personally, I have been down that road where I've overcome challenges from a health side of things, where I was getting iron infusions because I was diagnosed with being chronic anemic. Um, and because of how my blood was functioning and things like that, I actually had a massive heart attack under the age of 30,
Good
which
Lord.
is very crazy that I'm still alive, because the doctor said that most of the time when people are under 30 and have massive heart attacks, that they don't have enough calcium around their hearts to withstand a heart attack. So I know, like, overcoming challenges like that and the process of just jumping back to move forward can be very challenging. So can you basically talk about like the experiences of not having a weak mindset and being fortified to move forward after you experience health challenges?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had two heart attacks in 2018, and then I had my quadruple bypass in October. And I basically lost everything. When you work for yourself, when you don't work, you don't get paid. And
Right.
it's what was fascinating to me is that coming into 2018, I mean, I was rolling. 2017, I probably had the best year of my career. I think I sold 70 units that year. I was crushing it. Bought a brand new car, new RV. I was at that point, I'd been divorced several years, so I was single, just doing my thing and feeling like I'm ruling the roost, as it were. I'm king of the mountain. And by the end of 2018, after the second heart attack and the quadruple bypass, I went broke. I mean, I cleaned out my bank account. My savings was empty. In the span of a week and a half, Wells Fargo canceled my credit card, canceled my bank account, and repoed my car all in one
Oh
shot, like a
wow.
week and a half. You haven't lived until you've walked out on a Sunday morning and realized your car is gone and you know why it's gone. Like, I had been in contact with everybody. Everybody knew that what was going on. I had a history of always paying my bills on time and having good credit and all of that. But at the end of the day, nobody cared. Um,
Hmm.
Luckily, I was able to get my car back. My father was able to jump in and help out, and I had a friend of mine pay my rent because I couldn't even pay the rent at that point. But I just, honest to God, once I got over the initial 3 weeks of rehab, which I had to go move in with my father for 3 weeks to do my rehab because, again, I'm single and I can't live by myself those first couple of weeks because I'm not supposed to be up and moving around. Obviously they split my chest wide open, so I'm dealing with all of that. So I
Right.
had to go stay with him as a grown man, which was a little weird. But it just became a matter of, okay, I'm going to put my foot down, I'm going to put my head down, and I'm going to start working. And I started making my phone calls, doing what I needed to do. And whether anybody likes it or not, call it some sort of divine presence, outside presence, whatever. Come January 2019, it's like the heavens opened up and everybody was basically like, okay, well, Bob, we need your services again now that you're feeling a little bit better. And I just, again, it's like anything else. I call it persistent progress. It's just put one foot in front of the other and start working. And, the harder I work, the luckier I get. It's amazing how that works.
So I think that kind of connects to your the power of yes, of being in a space of always saying yes, you can accomplish something, versus being in a space of limiting yourself or limiting your beliefs and not saying yes to basically overcome challenges or letting different excuses come in the way. So I know on this journey that you basically embodied like a transformative power of saying yes to new opportunities. So how has embracing fresh challenges later in life basically influenced you personally and professionally through growth or for growth?
I think what it comes down to, number one, it gives you an opportunity to do things you've never done before, to meet amazing new people. I had a buddy of mine that I had worked with in real estate, and he had asked me to do a small part in one of his movies. And
Hmm.
of course, his movies are on Tubi and Amazon and stuff like that. Specifically, Thanksgiving with the Carters 2, Second Helping, and Christmas with the Carters.
Hmm.
And it's neither parts are big parts, but I've got to meet some amazing people that I still stay in touch with. I got a chance to, he also, his name is Brian Thompson, and he runs Miami Web Fest. So I got to go down there to Miami Web Fest with him. We did a proper showing of Christmas with the Carters at a movie theater. I got to meet the guys from Drink Champs, and that was a lot. And for me, and I'm an old school hip hop guy, so for me, that was awesome. I mean, I'm sitting there talking with DJ EFN about old school Virginia hip hop and the Lady of Rage and stuff like that, and loving that. I got to meet a lady that was on the Cuban boat lift as a child,
Oh
and
wow.
she's done a documentary, talked about why her parents had to come over from the, on the Cuban boat lift, what that was like for her with her father being a political prisoner. And there's no way on God's green earth I ever would have met this woman if I hadn't have been down there at the Web Fest and hadn't said, yes to these opportunities. And I just think it's important. Number one, you get really cool stories and it's a part of your life. I have my own IMDb webpage now, and it's just, to me, why would you say no? I mean, there's no point to it. And I think it has opened up the window for me to do other things and, feel like there's somebody out there that's listening. It's like doing the podcast. There's, every once in a while, I'll get a random phone call or a random message on Facebook, and it'll be, "Hey, I really like this little nugget of information you gave me the other day," or, "I listened to a podcast that you were on." And that feels good because it feels like somebody is paying attention. And in worst case, I would rather somebody learn from my stupidities and do better. One thing I noticed at WebFest that I speak a lot about now is with the young people is, we had a bunch of interns down there that we were helping out, and these are all folks that are want to be in the film and TV industry.
Hmm.
And 5 or 6 of them spent the entire night, at our meet and greet Thursday night. All the big boys, all the big players are there in Miami, and they're on their phones, either talking to each other or playing on their phone. And I'm going, "Guys, why are you on your phone? This is an opportunity for you to meet these important people that you want to meet." Now, they may not like you or they may be jerks, but you're not going to know that until you talk to them. And in worst case, you may resonate with somebody and they may be able to help you down the line with the movie or TV project that you're working on. What's the point of even showing up if you're not going to go out there and talk to people? And I
Right.
think sometimes, that gets lost in the translation, that whether we like it or not, you've got to talk to people. And that's part of saying yes, is putting your foot out, putting yourself out there a little bit, right, wrong, or otherwise.
Right. And I think in doing so, you're taking ownership of your life and of your destiny because your network is basically who you surround yourself with. And if you can't expand your network, you can't expand your net worth. And that's essential when it comes to being a business owner because being timid and just staying to yourself is not going to allow you to grow as a person personally and professionally or in your business. And basically, what I can tell from talking to you and engaging with you is that you are a person who has a strong proponent of taking control of your own destiny. So I guess the question I would propose to you is what advice do you offer to those who are trying to shape their own paths, whether in real estate or in other fields?
Well, it's a weird thing because whether we like it or not, and I'm the first one to admit it, imposter syndrome is a real thing, and it can be tough and
Hmm.
it can be daunting. And I still deal with that. Even on the real estate level, I deal with it. And I've been active in real estate, and for the most part, been top of the food chain for the last 15 plus years. But at least once or twice a month, I'm like, well, the phone's never going to ring again. I'm done. And I know that's silly, and I can look at my numbers and go, okay, well, that's not true. But I still feel that way when things have quieted down and like all the negotiations are done, and we're kind of in that in between space where we're getting ready to close and we got new opportunities that are coming, but they're not there yet. I
Hmm.
literally would just feel like, okay, I'm done. My phone will never ring again. I got to go get a job at Walmart. Nobody loves me. I don't know why. It's just, it's the truth. And I think that works a lot in everything we do. I think the most valuable piece of advice I ever received, and I try to pass it on, is I was at a real estate convention probably 2009, and I was talking to a lady about how I love real estate, but I don't like talking about it because I didn't want to be that guy. And she looks at me and she goes, "Do you love real estate?" I'm like, "Absolutely, I love it." She's like, "Do you want to continue to do it?" I said, "Yes." She's like, "If you don't tell anybody that you're doing it, you ain't gonna be able to do it for very long." And it, like, the light bulb went off, because let's be honest, if I worked at Walmart, I don't need to be on social media. I don't need to, I could literally go to work, come home, go to work, come home. Nobody has to know where I work. Nobody cares nobody knows what I do. And I don't have to, I can expose myself to the smallest amount of people possible and just live in my little bubble and my little world. But if I'm doing what I'm doing with the motivational speaking and things of that nature and the real estate, whether I like it or not, I've got to wave my hand in the air and let people know that I'm here. And
Right.
even when I don't feel like it, or I don't think that I'm worthy, I still have to do it anyway. And I think that qualifies for anybody. You just kind of have to do it, and just suck it up and deal with it. Unfortunately,
That is true. Because I think in that we don't realize that how we can become our own setbacks in life, and not realizing how sometimes if we're not open-minded enough, that we'll always have some type of adversity to face. So your story basically reflects a remarkable resilience in the face of adversity, and you had a lot of key life lessons that you've experienced, but also things that were setbacks that you've turned into lessons that you've basically applied to your career for growth. Can you kind of share some of the life lessons um, that you've learned
yeah.
about setbacks?
I would say two things on that. Number one, the most fascinating thing I think I ever learned was I had it was revolving real estate, but it's something that I use every day now. Is I was taught, this is 2008. I'm still a fairly new real estate agent. I'm with a new team, the whole nine yards.
Mhm.
And I had a property that wasn't selling, and I was arguing with my broker on why it's not selling. Now, my broker at the time is the team leader. It's his name on it's billboard. It's his company. And he looks at me and goes, "How many houses have you sold?" And I kind of stuttered and fluttered. And he's like, "My name's on the wall here." I said, he's like, "Why are you arguing with me? I know better. I know more than you do." And again, the light bulb went on, and it was like, oh, good Lord, he's right. And I think that's what saved me, was realizing that you don't know everything. And I try to take that with me. If it's somebody knows more, I'm going to listen to them. Now, I may go and get a second opinion on something, and let's be honest, we're all guilty of it. I mean, just this past Sunday, I'm sitting there on the couch watching football. I can't believe they ran that play. I don't know any better than that. I didn't play high school football or anything else, but yet, like most of us, I can sit there and second guess the coach and be like, I can't believe he ran that play, you know? So there's a lot of that. The other thing for me when it comes to setbacks is, and I did a very poor job of this, and that was let everybody know what was going on. We're a certain generation, and you figure I'm 51, we had been taught to mind our business and handle our business on our own. And that's what
Mhm.
I tried to do. And I failed miserably at it because eventually everything got shut down. And if I had told my father what was going on, if I had told my friends and family what was going on, they would have offered to reach out and it wouldn't have gotten as bad as it did, and
Yeah.
that's completely where I dropped the ball, is I kept everything to myself and tried to push through it on my own, to where by the time I reached out, it was, almost too late at one point. I mean, my father had to dig deep to get the car out of repo, where it wouldn't have been that bad if he'd have just made one payment the month before. It would have just continued on. And I had to reach out to a friend of mine and again borrow money to pay the rent, where I was living at the time, because I waited so long to tell anybody what was going on. Everybody just assumed all was well. I mean, at one point I had over $600,000 in medical debt, you know, which is quite a lot of money to say the least.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. I think you just have to let folks know what's going on, and whether we like it or not, you just got to push forward. I mean, there is no magic bullet to that. It's just doing it.
And I think part of that too is that as entrepreneurs, and as business owners, regardless of what niche you're in, a lot of people have taught us this little mindset of you need to fake it till you make it kind of thing. And people don't want other people to know that they're struggling with something. And it's that kind of closed mindset sometimes that's going to continue to allow you to face setbacks in life, because you're not in a mindset to say, hey, I know I'm not getting where I need to be, and I know I need help, but you're not willing to ask for help so that you can expand and go the direction in which you need to go. And I think that's one of the biggest setbacks, especially in different communities, that a lot of people want to say, oh, I did everything on my own, and because I did everything on my own, I don't have to listen to anybody else, versus saying, hey, I need help. Can you help me? And you can go long, a longer or further way in life, and not just life, but in business, by allowing others to just give you that helping hand when it's needed. But at the same time, I think it's always good to make sure you're getting help from your support system and not from random people, because sometimes you could allow the wrong person to help you, and that can actually hinder you versus actually helping you. And I think the biggest part of that is basically having principles, knowing your principles, and understanding your principles, so you'll know like what tenets or what things in life you need to adhere to so that you can grow and get past anything um that basically happens in life. And I think that's more of universal principles. So I would ask you, what are some universal principles or universal tenets that you emphasize as it relates to coaching, and how do these contents or concepts like patience, diligence, visionary thinking, and leveraging, basically past setbacks, apply to your universal principles?
I think for me, I think number one, I think honesty comes above aboard than anything else, just whether it's in business or whether it's, and I'm the type of person, again, I'm almost the anti real estate agent, the anti, I'm going to call it what it is, and this is how we're going to do it. And if you don't like it, well, too bad, then don't hire me. I'll walk into the $1 million house with t-shirt and jeans on because I'm confident in what I do. And I'm not going to try to put on a salesman attitude or anything of that nature.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I run things. The other portion of that is, again, I think that again, you have to kind of understand where you want to go and do a self check and figure out, what are my goals? Where am I at? If I want to change my job, then how do I go about doing that? If I want to stay where I am, what are opportunities are there within that job that I can do? Have I talked to HR about available programs? Is there a school program? Is there other programs available that maybe I'm not aware of? The other thing is find your group, your community. And sometimes it may not be the people that are surrounding you. You know, we all have people that we love them to death, but can be fairly negative. Okay, well, that's not going to do us any good. We have
Right.
people that like to shoot us down. So there's a mix of working in the dark, but at the same time, finding your people. And a lot of times nowadays, you know, you can do that online as opposed to 30 or 40 years ago. You couldn't do that. You were kind of stuck with whoever you were around or whoever you lived within a 10 or 15 mile radius. And now, you know, I've made friendships with people all over the country and people that I truly respect and admire, that I know that I can reach out to them and ask them a question and they're going to tell me the truth, or maybe give me a little piece of motivation if I'm having a less than stellar day, or if, quite honestly, the imposter syndrome has popped in and is creeping up. So I think that's a lot of it too. To me, being yourself is more important than just about anything else, and that's how I do it. And I do that
Mhm.
across the board, as you notice with, you know, even doing podcasts. I don't do the green screen or anything else. I mean, this is my office. Deal with what it looks like. If you don't like it, then don't have me
Right.
on the podcast. I would rather be this way than have some sort of BS promotional poster behind me, or some let's all hang in there, or genius has made, you know, some sort of pandering slogan, you know, or some sort of three-piece suit outfit on, when the fact of the matter is, when I go give a speech, I'm not wearing a three-piece suit. The best you're going to get is a
Mhm.
collared shirt. And even that is a struggle for me to wear. My editor was like, dude, you got to quit wearing the t-shirts all the time. I'm like, why? I like my t-shirts, you know. And then I like to sometimes wear t-shirts of bands that I appreciate and that are new bands or fairly young bands, and I want to promote them, or rappers, or whatever the case may be. So to me, I think that that's, you know, be authentic, whether it works or it doesn't. And if somebody doesn't like it, who cares? And granted, I can say that because, much like you, I've had heart attacks and almost died several times. And let's be honest, at 51 years of age, there ain't but a whole lot of people that I really whose opinion I really care about anyway. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you don't like me, you don't like me. I'm okay with that. If you think I'm being inauthentic, then there's nothing I can do about that. And I'm just not going to worry about it. So the biggest thing is just be honest and true to yourself, and just, you know, at the end of the day, nobody else is paying your bills but you. So do what you got to do.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I know like one of the biggest things that I teach for business strategies with clients is every client is not your ideal client. And what I notice as entrepreneurs, when people first get started, they try to grab clients from everywhere and they try to accommodate a lot of different clients that aren't their target audience. So they start changing themselves in order to gain money and they're selling themselves for money. And one of my biggest things is I always tell people understand who you are as a person, be true to yourself, and then once you know who you are as a person, establish policies and procedures for your company and don't change any of those policies and procedures for anyone, because when you start changing and altering those things, you're starting to change and alter yourself. You don't have to say yes to every client because every client is not going to say yes to you, and understanding who you are and your through your journey and with your policies and procedures in place, you're going to get that person who is the right fit as long as you're being consistent and standing firm on what you believe.
Yeah. And
And
people will see that.
right, if people, as long as you're consistent and you show up the way you are authentically, your people are going to see that, and those who appreciate it will reach out to you. Um, but that's one of the biggest things that I've always, when it comes to principles, I always tell people to just be true to yourself and show up as who you are. And one of the things that I do like is that you have kind of started coaching other people on how to have that right mindset and be motivated on their journey. So your transition into motivational speaking and life coaching, how do basically how do you use your experiences to inspire and guide others in their personal and professional lives?
Well, you figure number one, I've been smacked in the head a fair amount of times and managed to come back from that. And somebody along the way decided they wanted to listen to what I had to say. And number one, I struggle with that, and I have to realize that that's okay. And it's important to me to pass on my information, whether anybody wants to use it or not, is up to them. The other portion of that is, again, I think it comes down to transparency in terms of, okay, I've had problems, I've made mistakes, these are the mistakes that I made, this is how I went about trying to fix them, and that's okay. And I think, again, it comes down to being honest and being transparent and understanding that you've got to have a positive mindset. I think that's extremely important. I think there's a lot of people in this world that, for whatever reason life has done to them, that they're very negative, and I think that
Hmm.
affects them. And that's always going to be a struggle for them, but I think it can be overcome. And I think at the end of the day, you've just got to keep moving forward. And I preach that. And I also preach accountability with, doing the self-check, doing a personal self-check, doing a business self-check, or a work self-check, as it may be, doing a financial self-check. If you're flush with cash on Friday and broke on Monday, and you're going to the bar all night long, then obviously you're making a mistake. So there's,
Right.
that type of things. And just accountability to me is everything. And I think that's important. And there's no sense in me coaching you or giving a speech if you're not, number one, if you're paying me and you're not going to listen to me, well, then that's just pointless, you know?
True.
So it also depends on, do you want to play a game and pretend to be something, or do you want to really go out there and do it? And I'll give you a good example of that. You see that a lot with young investors that want to get invested in real estate, and they know all the lingo and all the dialogue, but they
Hmm.
haven't actually bought anything, or you can tell that they're playing the game of being an investor, and they're going to all the little local meetings at the bar and all this other fun stuff, but they're not really getting anything done. So it's a matter of, do you want to do that, or do you want to actually pull the trigger and be successful at this? And I think that's part of it too. I think a lot of times people do that. And I did it when I owned my rental properties. I thought I was king of the hill owning rental property. But the fact of the matter is that being a landlord is not an easy thing to do. I wasn't very good at it because I was too nice, and I should have sent that over to a property manager, but I was cheap and tried to keep all the money to myself. So I made mistakes. But
Hmm.
when I first got into it, I'm like, look at me. I own rental property. I'm just, Mr. Man. And that's certainly not the case. And it wasn't the case then, but you probably at the time couldn't have convinced me otherwise. I mean, I'm sure my ego was probably sky high owning 4 rental properties and feeling like I'm the man. But what they forget to tell you, and what I didn't realize, is when that mortgage payment doesn't get paid, it comes out of your pocket. And
Right.
very quickly, you can end up robbing Peter to pay Paul if you're not as prepared financially as you should be. And that's the position that I found myself in. Now, luckily, I was able to get out from underneath that. But it's okay to make those mistakes, and it's okay to learn from other people's mistakes. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that that is very important, being able to learn from others' mistakes, because there are people out there who have already been through what you're trying to do or have accomplished and developed the skill set that many of us are trying to develop. So why recreate the wheel when you can learn from them of what they did that was right and what they did that was wrong? And I think that's very essential as a business owner or entrepreneur, and even in your personal life, of learning from others' mistakes and experiences. Yes, your experiences are valuable too, but you may not have to experience something if you would just be open minded enough to listen to someone else who has already experienced it. So I guess my question is, what's next for you? Like, what goals or visions do you have, like, moving forward?
Moving forward is more motivational speaking.
Hmm.
I was recently the keynote speaker for Regent University, which is, of course, in my neck of the woods in Norfolk, Virginia. So we've reached out. We've got some other opportunities coming up for that. We're in the middle of finishing my first course, which is Want More, Take More, which should be out probably within the next week or two. I've got to finish in the editing, and that's on me. We have revamped the website, whatbobthinks.com, which should be out today, probably today or tomorrow.
Hmm.
And just, going in that direction. Probably going to do a little bit less one-on-one coaching, simply because I'm weird and I'm one of those people that it's hard for me to say, okay, well, let's meet next week for 30 minutes and you're going to pay me X amount, where as far as I'm concerned, shoot me an email, send me call me on the phone, send me a text, and we can talk right then and there, and work on whatever the issue is. I prefer to do the speaking, and I'm going to be doing some more courses. I had a podcast earlier, the end of last week, involving real estate and short sales, and the podcaster has asked me to put together a course for real estate investing and short sales and stuff like that. So I'm going to work on that. So that's kind of what I'm doing, trying to get over my imposter syndrome, which is always fun, and trying to post more content and just kind of sticking my neck out there, I guess, for, whether I like it or not, it's got to be done.
Yeah, I get it. Because as an owner of a marketing agency, I always tell my clients, hey, you have to show up. You have to make sure people know what you're doing and what's next. And on an average, for most of my clients, we're putting out 400 pieces of content for them a month, just to make sure that people know what they have going on, what their brand represents, and more so of how they can provide results to their ideal target market. Well, Bob, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on our show for this season. And before we wrap up, I would definitely like to give you an opportunity to basically give any parting thoughts or advice to our audience.
Okay. Well, let me see. I already gave away my two big pieces of advice, but I would circle back to that. If you want people to know what you're doing, or you love something that you're doing, you have to let somebody know. You just have to. Whether it's, I've got a friend of mine that's a tattoo artist. If you want to be a tattoo artist and you're good at it and you want to do it more, whether you like it or not, you got to let people know. If you're acting, you've got to jump out there and try for as many roles as you can get.
Right.
Whatever the thing that you're doing, you've got to let people know. And again, the other one is that if somebody knows better than you, then take a moment to listen to them. Now, you may eventually be on their level, or quite honestly, transcend their level. And it's okay to always get second opinions on things. But, I'm not in the habit, I'm not going to argue with my mechanic on what's wrong with my car because I don't know. Now, I may go get a second opinion, or in my case, call my father and ask him that, because if my father can't fix it, it ain't broke. But I'm still not going to argue with the mechanic because I don't know best. So I think those are two very important things. And again, reach out there, and you can find your group online. If you don't have anybody local that you feel like, wants to be in your position or can help you in your position, reach out there and find, what you're into, and talk to those people that are also into that. And typically they can give you good feedback. I take it like, if I was a screenwriter, then I would want to surround myself, even if it's online, with other screenwriters, and
Right.
send them a copy of what I'm doing. And they can either say, hey, this is really good, you should continue to go here, or hey, maybe you should, change that around. The other thing I think is important is, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're growing, and I'm going to give a shameless plug here to Nicole Banks, who runs the Niche Work. I work with her. She's kind of my editor, my business partner, all of that type of stuff. And I think it's important to have somebody that, quite honestly, when you're getting off track, as we all are prone to do, or we
Mhm.
start getting our head in the clouds, that can kind of move you back to the center of where you need to be and go, hey, you need to get this done, because I have been known to procrastinate from time to time. So I think it's important to do stuff like that too.
Yes. Well, and thank you so much. That concludes this episode of Wealthish Talk, and I would like to give you a heartfelt thank you for being a part of our podcast and being our special guest for today and sharing your inspiration to the audience and telling more about your inspirational journey with us. I'm Drika Bennett, and remember, the pursuit of wealth is not just money; it's about enriching your life. Until next time, stay inspired and keep tracing your dreams. Goodbye, everyone, and I will see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you.